I bought every handheld that Nintendo has ever made, from the Game & Watch all the way to the Switch 2, and literally every console in between. That includes one you probably never even heard of, the Pokémon Mini. And every single one of these is broken, so in this video, I'm gonna try and fix them all. These handhelds represent over 40 years of gaming. I'm gonna start with the very first handheld Nintendo ever made, and it's the Game & Watch. This specific Game & Watch isn't the first one, but the model Game & Watch was the first model. So I'm gonna start with this one and try and fix everyone all the way up to the Nintendo Switch 2. So the Nintendo Game & Watch was Nintendo's very first try in the handheld market, and they were wildly successful. They sold like 43 million of these things. So super successful, and kind of what got them started into the handheld market. Let's put in some batteries and see what this thing does. I can see some stuff on the screen. We got sound. Can't really see the characters very good. Can see Mario over here, but Luigi you can hardly see. There's Luigi there. You can see him good there. Let's take this thing apart and see what's going on with these screens. I can see how to get this side apart. I'm not sure how to get the other side apart. I didn't see any screws, at least external screws, so not sure what to think about that. I've never taken one of these apart before, so it should be interesting. Oh, here we go. Oh, wow, okay. There's the inside. Okay, I think I need to take this board off so we can get down to that screen. How do we get this side off, though? This cover piece must come off? I think that's what we must have to do. I'm gonna get under here with a metal pick very carefully. Don't want to mark up the edges. Just enough so we can see inside there and see if that's what we have to do. I don't see any screws there. There's one. Okay. So I think this is what we need to do. Well, that's not a screw. Now that we have it part way off though, we need to take the whole thing off because that's actually metal. That's crazy. We can put the adhesive back on this, so that's no big deal. I can't believe that's actually metal though. So then this must just pop up? What am I missing here? There's a little metal piece right down there. I don't know why. So the only thing I can figure, since there's no screws on this side, is there's clips. I hate clips. I can't believe they use clips this early. So what I need to do, I think, is get between these two pieces. Yep, I already see them. Got it. Wow. That was not fun. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what we want to do. I was hoping it'd be pretty easy after that. Okay, there we go. Okay. There's that, and there's this. We just got this speaker piece holding this in. But we need to remove this anyway. So I'm going to do that. And then hopefully we can get to these screens. It is interesting. It says no jewels unadjusted because this was a clock. I mean, it's a Game & Watch, so there is a clock feature on here. So that's why they say that, which is interesting. Oh, one more screw. Okay, now this hopefully will just move off of here easily. Yeah, pretty easy. So that behind the screen is really dirty. I'm not sure what that is actually. Is that really just a piece of polarizer film? Got a silver backing though. Oh yeah, that's why. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do about that. And then we also have polarizer on this too. So we've got, there should be two pieces here. Yeah. This front polarizer and then this piece right here. I'm going to keep these in order. There's just like that. So the parts to this screen are this rear reflector that goes behind the glass. Then we have this piece right here, which is kind of shows the course, and then we have the polarizer. Now, I have more polarizers. I don't have the reflective though, so I have that ordered and we'll install that as soon as it gets here. It's gonna be a few days though, so let's move on to the next handheld. Next we have the handheld that everyone remembers, the Game Boy Original, the DMG. This specific one is from the Play It Loud collection, and it is obviously the clear version, the best one. I can already see a bunch of corrosion down here, so let's get this taken apart, see what all we need to do on it. This thing is in terrible condition. This board is just terrible. This board, we've got some corrosion over here, but other than that, it might be okay. After the success of the Game & Watch, Nintendo developed the Game Boy. They wanted to develop a handheld that had interchangeable games, and the Game Boy is what they developed. It proved to be highly successful, as pretty much everyone knows what a Game Boy is, and most of you have probably even owned one. Between the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, Nintendo has sold about 120 million units of these handhelds. The Game Boy is the 4th best-selling system of all time. So the first step in cleaning this is going to be to try to remove as much of this corrosion as we can, especially because there's some down in the game cartridge slot. So here we go. Just gonna dip that whole board in there and watch it clean. It's also, I don't think these battery contacts are gonna be any good, but I'm gonna dump them in there anyway. Ooh, those are really reacting. Look at this. So good. Okay, we're gonna let those sit in there and soak for a little bit. And we've got a little more up here. Okay, we've had this in here for a good 10 minutes or so, and that's actually looking a lot better. And game slot is the same. It actually looks pretty good too. This board is the one that I think we're gonna have to replace, but I don't know. I'm gonna clean it off and we'll inspect it when we're done.
Next year, my wife and I are planning an overseas trip for our 20-year anniversary, and I'm really excited, but I'm also realizing how many small details you suddenly have to think about. Flights, hotels, timing, currency, chargers, adapters, and then there's the phone situation. Roaming fees, SIM cards, and hoping your phone actually works when you land. It's one of those stressors you don't think about until you're already tired and standing in a crowded airport. That's why I'm glad I found Saily. Saily is an eSIM app that lets you get mobile data in other countries before you even leave your home. No physical SIM cards, no hunting for a kiosk, and no surprise roaming charges. You install the app, choose your destination, activate the plan, and your phone just works when you land. For this trip, knowing my phone will work means one less thing to worry about. Maps, messages, ride apps, translation, all handled. If you're planning a trip, check out saily.com/tronics or use the link in the description or pinned comment to get 15% off your Saily plan. Thanks to Saily for sponsoring the channel and for taking some stress off of future Rob's shoulders. Let's kick it back over to Steve.
All right, so I think we're actually in pretty good shape on this board. Even this board, a bunch of the solder mask came off, but I think the traces underneath might actually be okay. I think it's worth trying to see if it actually works. We can always put more solder mask on if needed. Honestly, it's not even needed on something like this. Now, the one thing is that these battery contacts, I don't think those are gonna work. The problem is that we've got a bunch of rust on here, and once the rust starts, it's pretty tough to bring these back to good enough condition that they'll actually work. Now we could replate them, that's always an option, but once the rust starts getting under the plating and the plating starts coming off, they're not gonna work as is. And after looking at this battery contact a little more, you can see where the coating is flaking off of this as well. So I am gonna replace this one. This one looks good, but let's get this one replaced. Now I'm just gonna bring my solder sucker over. There we go, easy as that. And there we go. Battery lid. There we go. Okay, before we put a game in, let's test it and see if it works without a game. Then we'll test it with a game. Okay, here we go. Okay, hey, there we go. Okay, good so far. Contrast works. Okay, let's try it with a game. I've not tested this game, so I don't know if the game works, but we're gonna try Space Cadet Adventures. Because why wouldn't we? Okay, let's see what happens. Come on. Good so far. Okay, volume wheel works. Oh, there we go. Contrast button works. That screen is actually really nice. Okay, these buttons work. The Ren and Stimpy Show. You idiot! So we've officially fixed the first handheld in this video. That was a little sketchy with all that corrosion, but it actually turned out pretty good, and I have to say, looks pretty amazing. Next in the lineup, we have the Game Boy Pocket. So this Game Boy Pocket has corroded battery covers. No surprise there, I guess. Let's get it taken apart and get those fixed. The Game Boy Pocket is the first redesigned version of the original Game Boy, and it was released in 1996. It has all the features of the original Game Boy, but in a smaller and lighter form factor. It has a true black and white display and takes 2 AAA batteries instead of the original 4 AA batteries. Production and sales of the Game Boy Lite ceased in 2003. I think those battery contacts are so corroded that they're like sticking on inside the console. Mainly this one. Ooh, there we go. I think we got it. Hopefully that didn't damage the board when I did that. There we go. Yeah. So that was just being pulled up. Okay, so I'm going to get the rest of this board out, and it looks like we mainly need to deal with this area right here. The rest of it looks really good. So just need to get some screws out. Then we can dip this board into our vinegar. Hopefully, that's all this one's gonna need. I'm gonna get as much of the crunchies off as I can with my pick. Okay, now I don't really wanna get the speaker in there, so I'm gonna do this carefully. Not sure. I like barely go. Can we get it? Oh yeah. There we go. Some good foaming action going on there. Yeah, we're really lucky on this one. This one looks like it was just the battery contacts. I don't see any problems on the board itself or anything like that, so I think we're going to be in pretty good shape on this one. The inside of this thing looks pretty clean too, which is really nice. Okay, even the back side of this board looks really good, so I think that's probably actually all we're going to need to do on this one. I'm going to let this thing dry out, and then we'll give it a try. Okay, those contacts are looking great. Now, we need to clean up this little part of the board right here. So I'm just going to dip my cotton swab into some vinegar and let that work on that spot of corrosion in there. Now, I do still have these ones in here. Glad I noticed that because we need to get those out of there. So I need to push on the tab and push them down, but they're pretty stuck in there. Ah, there we go. I got them. Okay, so same thing here. I'll let the vinegar go down there and do its job. I'm just going to kind of coat this whole battery housing in vinegar and just kind of let it sit there for a little bit. Well, that's doing that. We need to clean off this battery contact. So what I'm going to do is just take my tweezers. Oh, that's good. Look at that. That's working so good. I mean, this thing is already looking almost brand new. Just got to make sure the plating hasn't been corroded through. That's the main thing. All right. And it's pretty much stopped bubbling. And we have a nice clean battery contact now. Okay, now I'm just going to get this piece all cleaned up and dried out, and then we'll put it all back together and see if this thing will turn on after all this. Okay, so now this battery contact goes down here. You need to make sure it gets pushed all the way down. I'll kind of snap into place. There we go. Now we need to mount the board into this shell. Of course, we might as well clean up these button pads while we're here. The buttons are in good shape. Pads are a little dirty on the bottom. Not bad though. Okay, there we go. Now we can mount the board in. Need to make sure this connector is connected first. There we go. All right. You can line up the power button. Then of course make sure the battery is in where it's supposed to be. Now I've got to put a few screws in, and then we can put on the back shell. And with those 3 screws in, we can now put this piece back on. Oh, that goes together way easier than it came apart because there's no corrosion over here. All right, now these screws and then we can test it. And all back together. Batteries in. Battery cover is in really nice condition. Luckily it didn't get damaged. Up and game. There we go. This is a Game Boy Pocket that's in really nice condition, but let's see if it'll turn on. Red light, good. Oh, there we go. I just had to fix the contrast. And that looks really good. Alrighty. So the Game Boy Pocket is all fixed. Let's move on to the next handheld. Now we move on to the Game Boy Color. Now any of you who know Nintendo know that there's one handheld in between the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color. Let me know in the comments which one that is. For now, we're working on the Game Boy Color because that console that's in between, I don't have yet. I thought I had them all, and then I realized I didn't have that one, so that one's in the mail, and we'll work on that here in a few minutes. For now, let's see what's going on with this Game Boy Color. How much you want to bet the contacts are corroded? Let's find out. Oh, yeah. Okay, we know what to do here. I'm going to get this all taken apart so we can get these contacts all cleaned. Hopefully the motherboard isn't too damaged. And just when I thought this one was going to be super easy, I realized they used the wrong screws. Somebody's had this apart. There's 2 screws missing here. But, I mean, this screw won't even unscrew all the way. I hope this isn't too big of a deal. I think I probably have more of these screws around, but like, dude, that's not the screw that goes in there. Did they glue that together? No. I think I bought this one on eBay, so I guess that tracks. There we go, got it. All of these guys are just totally corroded. So I'm gonna do the vinegar dip like I did with the previous 2, get this all cleaned up, and then we'll see what damage we have here and what we need to replace. Okay, the board is looking about as good as it's going to for now. So we're gonna put that there to dry. Now, let's get some of these guys, these button pads. I'm just gonna let those soak in there for a little bit. Same with the buttons. These things just all have a bunch of corrosion on them. And then these battery contacts from the shell. Look at that. Now it's time to have a little closer look at the board. We're gonna put our dentist hat on, or dentist mask on, maybe would be more appropriate. And scrape up a bunch of this corrosion and see if the pads are still good. Oh, I guess I'm not too surprised there. All right, I'm actually gonna put a little bit of vinegar on here to help get rid of any of that corrosion that's still there. Then we'll come in with some IPA. And here we go. So I've done some cleaning. I have tinned up these pads ready for solder. So here is the sort of how we're going to rebuild these circuits. This is F1, so we need to go from here over to here. And then we have EM6, which goes from here to here, and there's a path of current flow from right here to right here. So these 2 can be connected right here. And then we have current flow from here to here and here to here. So we'll place this one, and then since this pad is torn off, we'll put a wire from here to here. And this one you can see connects to this component right here. So that should be easy enough. Once we place that component, that should be good. And that should be about it, but we'll see. This pad is torn off, so I don't know if I can fit this component on that and this one on there. We'll see. If not, I may need to run a trace from here over to here as well. But that's what we got to do. Let's get it done. Okay, so we got a little bit more cleanup to do, but this is the circuit we have rebuilt. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and then I think it's almost time to start building this thing. I do need to install a new speaker, so let's do that next. One of the cables already fell out, so just gonna get the end of the wire here. There we go. Now we'll grab this one. There we go. Okay. Here we go with the new wire. There's one. And two. Okay. Now we can start building this thing. Here she is, all fixed up. Let's put some batteries in it and see if this thing's gonna work. That was a ton of work with what we did on this thing, so hopefully it'll work just fine. It is such a cool Game Boy Color though. And power. Okay. Oh, we got sound. We got a picture. Buttons. Work. Okay. So we were able to fix the Game Boy Color. Next is this really nasty looking Game Boy Advanced. So obviously this needs a cleaning. I don't even want to know what this is, but let's check and see if this has battery corrosion. Of course it does. Okay, let's get it taken apart so we can clean that off, and then we will do a shell cleaning. The Game Boy Advance was released on March 21, 2001. It also was released under the name iQ in China. The introductory price was $99, and it sold 81.51 million units. This original model was followed in 2003 by the Game Boy Advance SP, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, and we have all the screws out except for one, of course. There we go. Now we have all the screws out. Let's remove this cover and see how bad this is. Oh, good. It's not too bad. I'm going to pull all of these plastics off because we just need to give this whole thing a good cleaning. So we'll get this ribbon removed. Ooh, we got some corrosion there too. That's not good. We'll have to take a close look at that. I'm not sure if that's going to be okay or not. Oh, wow, we got some major damage down here. If these pads are too deteriorated, we might need to replace this board. Oh, also, we got some issues up here on this chip. Okay, we got a lot to do on this one. Here we go. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, I think that's about as good as we can get in the liquid. I'm gonna dry it all off and then we'll scrape this off and see what we think. And I'm just gonna go over these gently with some magic eraser. That'll help get all this gunk off and kind of polish up these pads. Not gonna press super hard because I don't want to eat away too much of the contacts. I'll come over with some IPA and a cotton swab. I mean, I don't know, but I think those might be okay. All right, and after that vinegar dip, this actually looks okay. I think we might be in luck here. And looking at the CPU on this, you can see right up here is where there was what looked like some damage. There was a little bit of corrosion on this trace right here, but everything's fine there. It's fully connected, so no worries there. Okay, and here we have the ribbon cable I was worried about. This is worrisome. Let's clean this up first though. Use some IPA and a cotton bud. Okay. Water will get under this kind of outer plastic piece and then just kind of sit there and corrode those traces, but this actually I think is okay. Now that all that's done, we can get to this board and clean up stuff like this button pad. This thing is terrible. So let's get the cleaning done now and then we can start putting it back together. And we've got some nice hot soapy water. Let's dunk this whole console shell in and clean it up. And it's only been a few minutes and I can already see that this nasty stuff is starting to lift. So, I'll come in with my brush. Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's just coming off so easily. That part not so much, so we'll give that a little more time, but we're getting there real quick. I'm using a little bit of magic eraser on this. We're not going to be able to get everything off, but this is going to do quite a bit for us. Now we can put the board on there. Line up that battery first. And this thing looks pretty good, but does it turn on and work? Let's find out. Oh, we get the noise, but the screen is, this screen is broken. We got lines right there. I'm a little worried about the board on this one too, because there was so much random damage on it. And I'm kind of worried that that corrosion damaged some of the traces on the board. I didn't see any, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually replace the board and the screen, which I do realize is pretty much the whole thing. But I think in this case, that's the best thing to do. Okay, replacement screen going in. And replacement board going in. All right, screws are in, batteries are in. Game is in. Let's see if this one will work. I really hope so. And that's what I'm talking about. There we go. So I feel like this doesn't totally count as a complete fix. I feel like we could give ourselves at least half a fix. But either way, it was broken and it's now working. Let's move on to the Game Boy Advance SP. So this Game Boy Advance SP, I don't know what's wrong with it. I plugged a charger in and it does charge. Let's see if it'll turn on. And we get nothing. I really hope this isn't another liquid damaged one or battery corroded one. All right, let's take it apart and find out. Okay, well, we have a battery that's a little bulged. Okay, known good battery in. Now let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's try it with the game. And, oh, game slot might be a little dirty. Okay. Okay, all good. So the main thing we have to worry about with this one is it's extremely damaged. So what I think I'm gonna do on this is turn it into a modded Game Boy Advance SP. I've got this kit from BoxyPixel where we're gonna turn it into sort of a regular Game Boy. So to do that, I have to first take this all apart, get all the parts out. I normally probably would try and save this, but there's no way to save this. Those scratches are so deep that there's just no way to get those out. So I think this is the best move for this one. This was super easy fix, just had to replace the battery. I'm glad we had that. I kind of needed one of those after the last few. The Game Boy Advance SP was released in 2003. It introduced at a price of $99. It was discontinued in 2010 with 43.5 million units shipped. Now the SP was the first Game Boy device that had a rechargeable battery, and it also had an integrated screen light. The first models had front lighting and the later models had backlighting. The Game Boy Advance SP was followed by the Game Boy Micro, and we'll see that in a minute. So then, we'll remove these little covers right here to reveal the screws. It's nice that I don't have to worry about scratching the shell, even though I still try to be careful. Then the back piece will just come off just like that. And then we can pull the ribbon cable out like that. And then we have the screen free. There we go. So this must go in here. Yep, so we need to clean this screen and screen protector off really well. It's really dirty. I'm just gonna use some IPA to do this. There's a lot of crunchies around the edge of this thing. Some of these are really stuck on here, so I'm gonna use a metal pick, but I'm not gonna press hard enough to cause any damage or scratching or anything. So the screen is definitely not perfect. These gouges are permanent. There's nothing I can do about those, but it's pretty good. So next, that's gonna go right in here. And then I'm gonna put some Kapton tape over those two solder points, just because I don't want any chance that those are gonna touch any of this metal. I don't think they will, but I'd rather just be safe. There we go. That'll keep those safe for us. Okay, with the screen installed, and then I have the ribbon cable into the board like this. All right, and now it's time for buttons. And of course the speaker, can't forget that. Now that that is all done, we can lower this down. Okay, and then this needs to slide in. So now for the shoulder buttons, we already got one installed. Now we need to just install this one. So I'm gonna make sure the post goes down where it should, like that. Spring goes in. Oh, there we go. That went easy. Now this back piece just goes on here. Ooh, after I install this guy. Power button goes like this. Now I think we're good to go on here. And there we go. Okay, a few more screws to put on and then we can test it. Okay, screws are in, battery's in, spacer is in, back cover goes on. Wish that screen protector was in better condition, but it is what it is. This is what we got. Look at that. That looks really nice. Okay, buttons feel good, but let's see if it'll turn on. Oh yeah. Look at that. Okay, let's try a game. And with the game, there we go. So the Game Boy Advance SP is fixed. Now it's time to move on to the Game Boy Micro. Okay, Game Boy Micro, let's see if it'll turn on. Nope, nothing. Okay, let's plug it into charger and see if it charges. I don't see any, I guess I don't actually know what this looks like when it charges. I've only had like one of these before in my entire life. That is a tight fit. Okay, start and select buttons do light up when I plug the charger in. I'm gonna let it charge up here and then we'll come back and see if it'll work after that. All right, so I have confirmed that these lights should be on when the Game Boy Micro is charging. All we get is a flash of those lights and then they turn off. So the first thing I'm gonna do is see if this battery is faulty. That would be amazing if all this needed was a battery. Should we just, yep, just that one screw. Okay, it's definitely not bulged out or anything. We don't have liquid damage, that's amazing. So give it a pull. There we go. Now we'll go back in with the new battery. Okay, I did get that battery plugged in. That was a pain. This replacement one, the wires don't really line up that well. So, okay, we need to get this all the way in here so we can put the cover back on like that. There we go. Let's see if it'll turn on and play a game now. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, looks good. Oh no! Got it. Yeah! So the Game Boy Micro is all fixed up. It was nice to have a really easy fix. Next, we have the one that a lot of you may not have even heard of, the Pokémon Mini. Okay, I'm looking at this. I can already see corrosion down there, which is honestly kind of a bummer because we've already had a lot of that. But that is what we have. So let's open up this battery compartment. See what it looks like on the inside. All right. Yep, lots of corrosion in there. Okay, let's get this taken apart and check it out on the inside. The Pokémon Mini was a collaboration between Nintendo and the Pokémon Company. It was released in 2001 for $40. This system was exclusively sold at Pokémon Center, New York. Unfortunately, sales of the Pokémon Mini weren't great and only 10 official games were produced. Only 4 of those were available in North America. So there's not a lot of these out there and I feel pretty lucky to have one to diagnose and try and repair. This screw is almost totally stripped out. I've gotten it most of the way, but man, it is just not coming out easy. So I'm gonna put some lubrication down in there and hopefully that will help. It's almost out, just not quite. They're not that big of screws, so hopefully we can get this thing out. It's just stopped turning, but I have it kind of like out a little bit. And these wires just fell out. They've been just corroded away. Okay. So maybe that's so weird that it's almost out and just still Not, oh, there we go, got it. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna need to replace that for sure, but that should be doable. Oh boy, I'm not sure this board is gonna be savable. I mean, look at that, that's crazy. Okay, well, we've got our bucket of vinegar down here. I'm just gonna dunk this whole board in there, and I'm gonna hope that I can get all these screws out. This is not great. But, I mean, we fixed every console so far, so it's really not, I mean, we're gonna come across some that probably aren't gonna be fixable. So it wouldn't surprise me if some weren't, but, and this, I don't know, this might be a good candidate. It is pretty bad. Don't think I'm missing any, whoa. Well, there's a vibration motor. That just came off. Okay. I think we're just pulling up against the adhesive from the screen, so. Is that what that is? Yeah. Okay, well, that ribbon cable just came off too. Oh man. Oh my goodness. There's little components embedded in this foam. Let's take a closer look here. Oh my goodness. And this is the component that's supposed to be on the board. It's that those solder joints are so weak that it's just embedded in this foam. Just a big chunk of corrosion right there. Wow. Got solder mask on the foam. Okay, let's take a look at this board. Oh my goodness. Look at this. That is crazy. Look at this. It's just caked in this green corrosion. Wow. I don't know that I've ever seen anything this bad. This is terrible. Like some of this, there's not much motherboard left. Wow. Okay, let's look at the other side real quick. Yeah. This is insane. Okay, I hate to do it, but there's just no point working on this. This board is just totally destroyed. Unfortunately, I don't have any more of these around. This isn't something I've ever bought before, so I don't have any that I can use parts from or replace the motherboard or anything like that. So unfortunately, the Pokémon Mini, we're gonna have to say, is completely unfixable. But it's time to move on to the Nintendo DS. So I have the Nintendo DS plugged in and it is charging. So that's good. Let's see what happens when we try to turn it on. Power. Okay. That all looks good. Is that what the top screen's supposed to look like? I'm not sure. Let's put a game in. And there's just nothing on the screen. Let me get a DS game and see if that changes anything. So we might have an issue with one of these screens, or maybe both of them. Okay, Super Mario Brothers inserted. Now let's see what happens. The screen lights up. Okay, shows on the screen there, and okay, so it looks like we just don't have anything up on the top screen. Also, I'm starting to see like a faint line there, so I think we just have a bad top screen. Let's get that replaced. And with the motherboard out, we have one screw hidden right over here. So we'll get that out. That is for this hinge piece. Now we need to get this top piece off, and we can get to the screen. And then we need to remove these little screw covers that are really hard to do without damaging the case, especially when we have brittle plastic like this. Just this one more right here. There we go. Now we can remove these screws and get the back cover off, and that should get us into the screen. Now we just got some clips holding this together. There we go. There we go. Got them. Now I need to make sure we have the correct replacement screen, and it looks like we do. Great. So we'll unscrew this screw, and we can flip it around, unhook the screen, disconnect it like that, and then we got this other little one right here. There we go. Okay. Now we just need to lift the screen from here and install the new one. Okay, there we go. So this one has this adhesive on it. We need to swap that over to here. If I can't get it swapped very well, I can use different adhesive for it. So I may do that, but we'll see if we can get this. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Okay, I'm gonna use some adhesive strips to put on this, then we will install it down onto the board. Okay, now I'll just peel off the backing and get it installed into the console. Okay, we have the small ribbon cable installed there. Now the larger one will go right here. Just like that. There we go. Flip it around like that. All right. Now we got to get it put back together and see if that's the only problem. Okay, well, let's get this board installed. Make sure all these ribbon cables are in here that need to be. Through this little gap right here. There we go. Okay, now I just need to hook the cables up, put the bottom cover on, put the battery in, and then we can try it out. Okay, ribbon cables are in, screws are in. Now the bottom cover needs to go on, just like that. We already got the top on. Okay, now the battery door, game in. What do you think? Is it going to start up and show on the screen? Let's find out. Heck yeah, it will. Okay, and after a restart, here we go. And there we have it. So our Nintendo DS is all fixed up. Next, we have the Nintendo DS Lite, and this is the Mario edition. Okay, let's see the condition. Not amazing, but it's okay. That'll do. Let's see if it turns on. Green light. Broken bottom screen. Okay. That's a little bit easier. Well, we know what's wrong with this one. Let's get to it. The Nintendo DS Lite was released in 2006. It's got an improved design because it's a little bit smaller, it's lighter, and it has a little bit brighter screens and a longer lasting battery. 2 years later in 2008, Nintendo released the DSi, and that's the next console we'll look at, but we got to get this one fixed first. All right, and with all of that loose, we can lift up here. Sort of. What's that? Oh, capacitor. That's crazy. A capacitor is loose in here. I got to figure out where that goes. Okay, now we'll push up on that bottom screen. There we go. And we can fold it down like this. And we have easy access to remove the screen just like that. There we go. And now we need to install this red bezel onto the replacement screen, and then we can put it all back together. And I can't believe it, but I actually found this screen with the right bezel on it in my parts bin. So, out with the old, in with the new, or, you know, in with the working. Now we gotta flip this around, make sure it aligns correctly, and it does. This whole board is bent, which is a little weird, but whatever, it works. Now I was looking around on this board and I think I found out where the capacitor is from. Let's get under the microscope and check it out. And that is definitely where that capacitor was supposed to be. Oh, we got another broken one right here. Man, this thing must have experienced a pretty hard fall. Okay, So we need to replace that one and this one. It looks like both of these components are still good, so we're gonna just solder them back on and see what happens. So I'm gonna bring my iron in first and put it against the pads, kind of help flatten them out. There we go. Okay, there we go. Do we see any other parts that are missing? I think those are the only two. Okay, so I'm gonna get that cleaned up, and we'll get this thing put back together the rest of the way and see if it'll work now. Okay, battery door, and of course the mismatched stylus. Okay, Super Mario Brothers game installed. Let's see what happens when we try to turn it on. Green light, good news so far. Top screen's good. Bottom screen is good. Okay, got to get it all set up, then we'll see if the game works. Okay, bottom screen looks good so far. Super Mario Bros. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. So the DS Lite was actually a pretty easy fix. Even though we had to do some soldering, the screen was really easy. Now we move on to the DSi. And game installed. Let's see what happens when we try to turn it on. Okay, it turns on. Both screens look good. Touchscreen works. We have someone's picture. Awkward. Okay, so the problem here is that the left and right buttons don't work. The other note on it is that it has a stripped screw somewhere. Oh, there's a stripped screw right there. That one doesn't look good either. Okay, well, let's see if we can get this apart. So our first issue is this screw is totally stripped out. There's not really much there at all. See if I can get any other bits to grip on this. I'm just trying various bits to see if I can find any that will sort of get a bite on anything. And that one almost does, but not quite. Probably the best thing is to use a Dremel, but in order to use that, I have to go upstairs and get it. So I'm gonna try and use a couple things that I have just sitting here. First is this grinding pen. See if I can grind a bit of a groove in it. Or grind out enough so I can get a Phillips bit on there. Yeah, not quite enough to do anything. Okay, we got a bit of a groove cut in this thing. Let's see. I'm going to be pressing super hard. Oh, okay, we got it. It's moving. Okay, we're getting it slowly. I don't know why that was in there so hard. Gotta go where you guys aren't gonna be able to see it quite as well. Gotta go just straight down on it. It's not the best groove, but hey, I didn't have to go upstairs to get my Dremel. Okay, we're almost there with it. Oh, there we go, we got it. Sweet. Okay, now I do have a new battery door. This did put a few grooves in here. I could take this screw out and put a new screw in there, but I've already got this battery door, so I'm just gonna replace that. Now with that off, we can get down to the L and R buttons. I'm gonna try and clean those first and see if that does us any good. And if it does, then we'll move on. If not, then we can replace them. The Nintendo DSi is the next iteration of Nintendo DS. It had two cameras, a digital music player, and internet browsing. Internet browsing allowed downloads via the DSi shop. It launched in 2009 and it had significant upgrades over the DS Lite, and it even included an SD card slot. The two cameras were only 0.3 megapixels, and its primary rival was the PlayStation Portable. After the DSi came the DSi XL, which we'll take a look at when we're done with this one. Now, one of the things I noticed when I removed this bottom cover is this ribbon cable, I'm not even convinced that it was attached. It's got a connector on the board right here, and I don't know that it was even attached. So what I'm gonna do first is give the buttons a cleaning, and then I'm just gonna put this back on and make sure this is plugged in and then see if it works. Just gonna use some BW100 for the cleaning. Just gonna spray it down in there, press the button a bunch of times. If I wanted to get it even better down in there, I could take off these 2 screws on each side and then I could get right to the button. But I think this is gonna be close enough. And then the pressing down just helps get any gunk that might have built up out of there. So, okay, there we go. So I'm gonna carefully make sure we plug this in. It goes right down there. It's hard to see with the angle, but okay. Pushing down, nice and hard on that. All right. That's gonna be crazy if that's all this was. Probably wasn't, but you never know. It has happened before. Okay, battery. There we go. See if it'll power on. Okay, it does, good. Of course, I have to go through the setup again. Oh, no I don't, okay. Oh, look at that. Okay, let's go back. The L and R buttons totally worked. They were just unplugged. So the Nintendo DSi is all fixed up. Let's move on to the DSi XL. And this one we have the special edition Super Mario Brothers. And here is the Super Mario Brothers 25th anniversary Nintendo DSi XL. So I don't know what's wrong with it. Let's open it up and see if it turns on. Here we go. No power. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens when we try to charge it. We get a charging light. Okay, good. Let's see if it'll turn on now. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna let this charge up for a bit and then we'll try it again. And instead of waiting for this one to charge, I'm actually going to just take that battery out, put in a known good one, then we'll see if it turns on. Here we go, ready? No, it does not. Okay. Let's get this thing taken apart and see what's going on the inside. The DSi XL was released 1 year later than the Nintendo DSi in 2010. It doesn't have too many differences, the main one being that it's obviously way bigger. The DSi XL marked the end of the DS era, with the 3DS coming up next. I don't really see much of a problem here. I think the best thing to do is to take this off and take a look at the other side and then check any fuses on the motherboard. So the thing with the DSi is this board often goes bad. So that's one of the things that I love about it, is that it's sort of modular. And so many times you can just replace this board or replace components on it and get these things working again, especially in the event of like absolutely no power at all. Okay, let's check the fuse on this and see if the fuse is good. Okay, we should hear a beep if it is good. And it is good. That's actually kind of a bummer. I was hoping we'd have an easy fix on this one too. Obviously we do not, so far at least. Okay, let's check fuses over here. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's also good. So the first thing I'm gonna do here, just to rule it out, is replace this board. Like I said, these are common to go bad, so let's do that and see what happens. All right, new power board in, just enough to test. If you ever do this, make sure that your positive battery terminal lines up with the positive terminal on this board, or else you're going to short some things out. Okay, there we go. Lined up, and nothing. Okay, so we know this power board is good because it still doesn't work when we have the replacement power board in there. The next thing I want to check is the Wi-Fi board. Now these will commonly do this thing where the Wi-Fi board will cause them to do exactly what's happening here. Oftentimes it'll do like a brief power on and then turn off. So I'm not convinced that this will fix it, but it's a big enough problem that it's worth trying. And even if this doesn't work, I still will replace it just because it is that common of a problem. All right, here we go again. And power button, nothing. Okay, let's replace this with a known good just to rule it out. And power, nothing. Okay, unfortunately, the next most common things are screens. So the upper screen and lower screen can cause this problem. So that's where we need to head next. So here's the thing. We've got two screens on this, the bottom screen and the top screen. Out of those two, I'm pretty sure we all know which one is probably actually going to be bad, but it's easiest to replace the bottom one first. So let's try that and just see if that happens to get it working. I have this known good bottom screen. So we're going to put that in there. Then I'm going to hook everything back up to this board and see if that happens to fix it. Okay, here we go. Pressing the power button. Of course, that's not going to work. I knew I'd have to replace the top screen. All right, let's get this top screen replaced. And hopefully that's all it takes to fix this one. There we have it. I do need to take this screen lens off so we can put it on the replacement screen. Pull it up just like that. Oh, and if we look just right, look at that, the screen is totally bad. But we couldn't see that when it was all installed. That's crazy. Okay, I'll be using this screen out of a blue DSi XL. There we go. We'll match it up. Like that, and like that. And there we go. Okay, almost there. Got him. Okay, here we go. Let's see if it's gonna turn on. You think it will? Power button? But you'll have to wait until part 2 because this video is getting really long. I'll put part 2 up on your screen as soon as it's ready. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.